Hello, my name is Tyler Boudreau, and this is a sample video lesson meant to accompany my job application materials. The lesson I'm going to be presenting to you today is meant for an 11th or 12th grade high school English or literature class. It's covering the topics of close reading, literary analysis, specifically some literary devices. And while I say that it's meant for 11th or 12th graders, that's really just the thought I had given the selections of literature I chose to accompany the lesson. But really, the literary devices I've chosen and the concepts we're going to be addressing in today's class are adaptable to any age level, even middle school, I'd say. So I'm going to be sharing a PowerPoint with you, and so you can follow along with the PowerPoint as well as the lesson plan I've also attached. And I'll be popping in and out as kind of my teacher persona and my outside persona explaining some of my choices throughout the lesson. So I'm going to hit share screen. We are going to start pretending that we have just joined a Zoom call for this literature class. And here we go. Hey guys, welcome back to our lit class. I'm back here in this sweaty room. I had to turn off the air conditioning to make sure my audio quality came out good. The things I do for you students. I'm kidding. Of course, a little sweat on my end is worth it if I instill a lifelong love of learning in you all. Anyway, we're back to our close reading unit. The big question we're talking about, what tools do writers use to express deeper meaning in their work? Remember, it's not just about what they're saying, it's about how they're saying it. Every choice a writer makes is intentional. And when you think of close reading, it's not like explorers looking for new things and new lands, because, I mean, even if we think about the narrative of explorers, right, they're really often just colonizers coming to a place that people are already thriving in. Think of close reading more like archaeology, right? We're finding specific artifacts in specific places, and we want to know how and why they got there, because there is reason behind it. So, the objective of today's class is to add two more literary devices to our tool belts. We're talking about metonymy and synecdoche. In the form of a question, what are metonymy and synecdoche, and how are they used to reinforce the meaning of a piece of writing? That's kind of this idea we're looking at, right? How are they using these figurative language tools to enhance the meaning of their writing? Okay, so the rest of the lesson is going to look like this. I'm going to introduce these terms. I'm going to spend as little time as I can doing this so we can get right to practicing together as a class in a big group discussion. We'll do some solo practice with a Shakespeare sonnet, and we'll do group practice with our book, A Thousand Splendid Suns. So, metonymy and synecdoche, big words, hard to spell, fun to say. Those are my favorite types of words, by the way. And yeah, I've been saying them a lot. What do they mean? Well, first off, synecdoche. Okay, synecdoche sounds like Schenectady, New York, which is a city. It's not that, although there is a Charlie Kaufman movie, Synecdoche, New York. So yes, it's all very confusing, but they're actually things you use all the time. You just don't know. You just didn't know that there was a name for it. So we'll start with metonymy on the left. We're going to make a little T-chart. So first, a definition. Metonymy, the substitution of the name of an attribute or adjunct for that of the thing meant. Basically what that means is it's when you refer to a thing by using a word associated with that thing. So if I said Boston won the basketball game, I'm not referring to the entire city of Boston playing basketball. I'm referring to a basketball team in Boston who won a basketball game, the Boston Celtics, or, like a college team or a high school team. Boston basketball team, you understand. Similarly, if I said the bench scored 30 points in last night's game, another basketball metaphor, it's all metaphors. The bench is not literal bench, like a piece of furniture shooting hoops. It's the players who started the game on the bench, not the starting five players who come into the game and score points. So we're using the word bench to replace the more literal meaning of the players. Just a few more examples. We've got red tape referring to government restrictions, right? So you hear a lot about red tape in terms of housing or restrictions like that the government makes. Broadway or Hollywood referring to the theater and movie industries, right? So if you're talking about Hollywood, you're talking about the industry that makes movies. This is one I came up with kind of on my own. Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos when you're referring to Facebook or Amazon. And something like if you say the big question mark when you're referring to a question, right? So if I said the big question mark about this novel is, what are the main themes? Obviously, I'm just asking a question, but we associate the question mark with a question. Okay, moving on. Synecdoche. Technically, it's a specific version of metonymy, slightly more specific in that it is a figure of speech in which a part is meant to represent the whole or vice versa. Again, more simply, the word replacing the word is something that is part of the referent. So, easiest example I can come up with is a head count. If I take a head count of the class, I'm going to count all of your heads, but I'm not actually counting your heads. Literally, I'm counting how many of you are here. I'm taking attendance. So the head stands in for your whole body. Another similar one in terms of anatomy is I've got a lot of mouths to feed. So if I'm saying I have a lot of mouths to feed, I'm referring to the people I'm feeding, and the mouths are just a smaller version of those people that I'm replacing in the figurative language. Another one is paper for money. So it doesn't have to be like a part of it. It could be like a component of it. So copper for pennies or paper for money, something like that. Wheels for a car, right? Wheels are obviously just one component of a car. But if you say, hey, he's got nice wheels, you're referring to his car. Have you heard the word instead of have you heard the news? So like a word is part of the news. I just thought that was a fun one myself. Okay, so here's an example that I think will kind of show you how different and similar that these terms really are. So we've got this volleyball team. I said, if I asked you who's winning this game, and you said the blue shirts are winning, it would be Synecdoche because you're referring to the blue shirts, which are a part or component of the blue team. They're literal uniforms. But if you said blue is winning, then it would be metonymy because blue is the color we associate with that team. So they're so similar, but so close. All right, here's where I'm passing the ball to you. Another sports metaphor. I keep hitting you with these sports metaphors. Anyway, what do you think? So I'm going to share some examples of things that I think might be metonymy or synecdoche. I personally am not really like 100% on any of these. They could go either way. I genuinely want to hear what you guys have to say. So thinking about what we have learned about synecdoche and metonymy so far, what do you think for the examples? We've got the library called to say you have 2 overdue books. Now you can submit what you think either by sharing out loud or typing in the chat. I'll consider all of those answers. So, but just contribute to the conversation. This is a chance for a whole group conversation. The library called to say you have 2 overdue books. And so cutting out here, this is where we would be joining a full group discussion. Hopefully people would be able to pipe in again over the voice chat or typing in the type chat on the side, pitching in their thoughts, whether they think the following are metonymy or synecdoche. I've got a couple more here. Copper for police, fight the power. So these 2 are kind of interesting because, again, I really don't know what these are. And I think it's a really good opportunity to centralize the students' opinions in this kind of lesson. So letting them know that what their opinions and their thoughts are just as important as mine, because I'm not going to tell them they're right or wrong. Benjamin for a $100 bill, that's another one where it could really go either way. And so after we've gone through these examples, I would plan on going back to the T-chart and they could add their own examples if they've thought of any. I would kind of open it up to them and see what they think. And then after our whole group discussion, obviously there's time for questions in case anyone has questions or just any random thoughts that are entering their head. It's time for our solo activity. So, okay, class, so solo practice. Here we've got a Shakespeare sonnet that I picked out. Theoretically, we've covered Shakespeare in the past. Maybe we've read a play or some different sonnets. But yes, sonnet. Poetry is going to be a very good place to look for figurative language and metaphors like metonymy and synecdoche. So I promise you there is an example of metonymy or synecdoche in this poem. It's your job to find it. So on your own, this is a solo practice. Read through this poem, look for any literary devices that you find, particularly metonymy or synecdoche. Take 5 minutes or however long you need. And when you found it, private message me your answers and I'll get back to you. And by the time everyone's done, we'll be able to move on to the next thing. And if you get done early, obviously, keep looking for different literary devices, or I'll share a way that you can keep going in the private message. So again, here's where I'm opening up to solo practice. Solo practice is obviously valuable because I want to know what the students are capable of on their own. And since all of them are private messaging me their answers, it should be very easy for me to do a simple assessment of who's getting it and who's not. Even though this poem is a little tricky, It's not that hard for a Shakespeare poem. And the metonymy I found is a synecdoche right in the last couplet. It's this were to be new made when thou art old, and see thy blood warm when thou feelst it cold. Okay, so the blood here is the synecdoche, right? Because the blood is referring to the object of affection in the sonnet, the youth we're talking about. His blood in this case is his offspring that Shakespeare is proposing he have in order to maintain his youth in a figurative way. So, and see thy blood warm, the blood, his child, his younger child, who is still youthful and lively and attractive, when thou feelst it cold, he's talking about the current youth's blood. As he gets older, his blood will grow cold. So this is a really interesting example of synecdoche. It's in a pretty locatable spot. My students should hopefully know to look in the last couplet of a Shakespeare sonnet for the real hook. And so hopefully as they're finding it, they're sharing their answers with me, and I can always point them to where about in the poem it is, if in case the whole poem's too long, or tell them they can work with a partner or something like that if they're really not getting it. And again, if they do get done early, the other option for them is to keep looking through the poem and looking for their literary devices. They could scan the poem metrically if they so choose. And then as we wrap that up, we'll move into our group practice. Okay, so group practice, guys, we're going to be looking at our book, A Thousand Splendid Suns. This is my copy from high school, a whole 5-6 years ago, not that long ago. Spooky, but very good book. I picked it out for a reason. It's very good. So we've been reading through it, obviously, hypothetically here. So in your small group, I want you to turn to the first section of chapter 33 and find an example of metonymy. Again, I promise you there's one there. The section's only about a page long. It's just the first little opening section of chapter 33 on the first and second page, like the front and back of it. And then in your group, I want you to discuss what the use of the literary device means, given the context of the book and the character from whose perspective the chapter is told. So you're going not only to find the example of metonymy, but say what it means. Now, this is important, right? It's one thing to be able to find these literary examples and kind of know what they are when they pop up in real life. It's another thing to be able to use them in specific literary contexts. So I'm going to break you all out into your breakout rooms, and I'll pop around to help guide you. And so, yes, the students would pop out into their breakout rooms. And the point of this group practice, I think it's important for them to take this next level thinking with a group, right? So hopefully by now they've all had some practice identifying it on their own, but it takes a little bit more thought and teamwork to start identifying the reasons behind the choices that the author's making and really think that with that extra critical level. So it's good to have some group work. And so, yes, the example in A Thousand Splendid Suns comes from this chapter where one of the main characters has just had a baby, and the other main character, Miriam, refers to the baby as a bundle instead of like a baby or a child or something literal. So we're meant to see Miriam referring to the baby as a bundle, as something less than literal. And what it really emphasizes is how Miriam doesn't see the baby as fully valued as human life. She's still separated from this baby. She might resent this baby or think of this baby as an enemy or an obstacle in her life. And so by the author showing Miriam's perspective as referring to this baby as a bundle, the author is emphasizing this aspect of her character, that she sees the baby as an item and not a living being. Of course, she'll eventually grow to love the baby, but hey, read the book, then you'll learn all about it. So yes, we're in this group practice. I'm popping around, explaining things, helping people find it if they can't find it, helping people think critically about the characters' perspectives and what it means. Hopefully they've gotten used to the idea that the chapters are told from certain characters' perspectives, and so that they know the character quirks and they know what to look for. And as all the groups have gone, we're wrapping up class now, moving to our farewell. Okay, so farewell. Today we learned what metonymy and synecdoche are, how to identify them and use them, and why they are useful in our close reading practice. So I capitalized these letters for a reason, right? I love a what, how, why progression. So we learn what to do, we learn how to use it, and we learn why it's important. That's just important in life, y'all. So if you can figure out the why of everything you do, you'll get far. Okay. So now that we know what they are and how and why, it's your turn for homework to practice more with it. Obviously, that's what homework is for. So for practice, I want you to write a body paragraph of an essay using the metonymy examples from either the Shakespeare or A Thousand Splendid Suns passages. So basically, you're going to use the example we already found and just write a body paragraph of an essay. You don't have to write the rest of the essay, just write the body paragraph as if you were writing a full essay. And so the topic sentence of this body paragraph should be, the author uses this literary device to emphasize the meaning of their work, right? So if you're talking about all the different devices the author used throughout the whole essay, this paragraph is just about one specific literary device. And so, yeah, just the body paragraph, that's your homework. And keep reading A Thousand Splendid Suns. That's also, I don't know, there's a hypothetical few chapters that you should be reading for next time. But this is a hypothetical lesson. So I'm going to wrap it up. I'll open up to questions, comments, anything you guys want to talk about. If you want to ask me something while everyone's still in class, ask now so that everyone else knows. If not, I'll stick around if anyone wants to chat privately or individually. And yeah, thank you so much for paying attention during this lesson and really giving it your all and doing that solo practice, which was really helpful, and practicing in a group. We love the variated strategies. And goodbye. Okay. Thank you. So that was the end of class. And this is me, Tyler, as an outside observer, wrapping up saying, thank you for watching. I appreciate your attention these 15 minutes. Hopefully, maybe you learned something yourself. I like to think that maybe I could teach you something about literature in addition to teaching you about my own personal teaching styles. So thank you again, and I really hope that you have a good rest of your day.